Suffixes are my favourite parts of words. But Toby, what is a suffix? Suffixes are groups of letters that you put at the end of a word to make another word. Wow, yes, another word. Adjectives are my favourite words. Suffixes are my favourite parts of words. So can we make a video about the suffixes that you need to make adjectives? Yes, yes we can. Whoa, this sounds amazing. My name is Toby, this is Smash English, and here is everything you need to know about using suffixes to make adjectives for the B2 First Cambridge exam. Let's start with the most basic thing, the most simple thing. This is a B1 thing. So if you get this wrong, well, you're taking the wrong exam. And that's a terrible thing. Interested and interesting. What is the difference? Well, if you are interested in something, it is because that something is interesting. If you are bored, it is because something is boring. If you are confused, it is because something is confusing. If you are frightened, it is because something is frightening. Brilliant! The ED ending describes the feeling, the ING ending describes the object that causes the feeling. However, there are some exceptions. I am scared because your face is scary, not scaring. Scaring does not exist. Well, actually it does. It is the present continuous form of the verb, to scare, but not as an adjective. No, so don't say it. Don't describe something as scaring, because if you do that, it's wrong, and you will fail your B2 exam, and your B1 exam, and your life. And if you fail your life, well, that's a scary idea, isn't it? Wow, this topic is so exciting. I feel so excited. So let's do the more difficult suffixes because, as I said, I love suffixes. Well, at least these kind of make sense. We have the nouns pain and care. If something causes a lot of pain, it is painful. If something causes no pain, it is painless. If someone does things with a lot of care, they are careful. If they do things with no care, then they are careless. That is simple. All of these examples share this pattern, but sometimes they don't mean what you think they will mean. Take helpful and helpless, for example. Help is the noun. If someone is helpful, it means they are always available and able to help you. So the opposite of helpful is helpless. No! The opposite of helpful is unhelpful. But helpless does exist. If someone is helpless, it means they cannot defend themselves. The important thing to remember is just because you have an adjective with full and less, it doesn't necessarily mean that these adjectives are the opposites of each other. Not always, and I'm sorry, I'm really sorry about that. What do you want me to do about it? I'm making a video to help you, so say thank you to me. It's not my fault that my language is confusing. God. Also, there are many adjectives that end in full, but there is not the equivalent adjective with less, and that's a terrible thing. For example, the adjective peaceful. I had a peaceful night with my pet carrot. But I cannot say peaceless. Peaceless doesn't exist, so don't say peaceless. Remember, you are learning a language. You are not inventing your own. Peaceful, full of peace. Peaceless doesn't exist. Sorry. I can be beautiful, obviously, but I cannot be beautyless. Someone can be playful, but they cannot be playless. Something can be awful, but it cannot be aweless. And of course, to make things even more complicated, some adjectives have the suffix less, but there is not an equivalent with full. Something can be pointless, but it cannot be pointful. An explanation about suffixes can be endless, but it cannot be endful. A dead pet carrot can be lifeless, but a living one cannot be lifeful. Now we have something easy. Yes, easy. We take a verb, We add the suffix able, A-B-L-E, and that means that the verb is capable of being done. That's simple. You can even, kind of, make up your own words doing this. For example, this exercise is doable, this game is playable, this song is listenable, this route is walkable, this plane is flyable. That was fun. Yes? Yes! However, of course there are some exceptions. If something is capable of being drunk, we say drinkable. Obviously, that's the rule. We know the rule. The rule is easy. So if something is capable of being eaten, we say eatable. No! No, we don't say eatable. Eatable does not exist. Instead, we say edible. Why? I don't know. Don't ask me questions. Just take what I say and learn it. That's what all the good teachers say. Obviously. Also, sometimes adjectives ending in able, A-B-L-E, and ible, I-B-L-E, do not mean capable of being done. I'm sorry about that. Take, for example, fashion, the noun, and fashionable, the adjective. Here, fashionable is not coming from the verb to fashion, which means to mold or change the shape of. No, fashion is coming from the noun, which means a way of dress or a look or a style. So a fashionable person is someone who dresses well or for something that is popular. It's not about something capable of being done. I said this was easy, and I lied. It's not easy, so I'm sorry. But why am I apologising? I spent a lot of time preparing this video for you. If anything, you should be apologising to me. Good. This one is a problem, and I apologise in advance. You can add OUS, EOUS, or IOUS to a noun to make an adjective, and the adjective means full of that noun. For example, danger becomes dangerous. But remember, if the noun ends in E, we must eliminate the E and add OUS. For example, fame becomes famous, and ridicule becomes ridiculous. Unless the noun ends in GE, and then we add OUS and we keep the E. For example, advantage becomes advantageous, or courage becomes courageous. And this gets even more confusing. Also, when a noun ends in Y, we replace the Y with an I, so the suffix becomes IOUS. For example, glory becomes glorious, mystery becomes mysterious, and fury becomes furious. And when a noun ends in ION, we use the suffix IOUS to make the adjective. So religion becomes religious, ambition becomes ambitious, caution becomes cautious, and rebellion becomes rebellious. Oh, we did it! Aren't we great? Well done. This is simple, right? We just take a verb that finishes in ate and we add the suffix ant to make an adjective. Simple, easy, great. Someone who tolerates is tolerant. Something that someone has vacated is vacant. Someone who hesitates is hesitant. And someone who dominates is dominant. Okay, perfect. We finished. No! Because something that pleases is pleasant. Something that abounds is abundant. Something that depends on something else is dependent. Oh. Maybe we can make adjectives by adding the suffix ant to nouns that end in ance. Elegance, elegant. Arrogance, arrogant. Ignorance, ignorant. Dominance, dominant. Importance, important. Brilliance, brilliant. Romance, romantic. Okay, so this works most of the time. Most of the time you can add the suffix ant to nouns that finish in ance and it makes an adjective. Most of the time, but not always. Sorry. Again, apologising. Sorry. I'm sorry for being sorry, alright? God! What about the ent suffix then? Maybe nouns that end in ence take the suffix ent to make the adjective. Well, let's see. Innocence, innocent. Intelligence, intelligent. Obedience, obedient. Confidence, confident. Independence, independent. Absence, absent. Patience, patient. Violence, violent. Okay, for me, that is good enough. That is a rule. I'm going to call that a rule of English. If a noun finishes an ENCE, then the adjective takes the suffix ENT. Maybe not always, but always usually. And that's good enough for me. But this is B2 first, not C2, so don't worry about it. B2 first, ENCE, adjective, suffix, ENT, done, great. So then, what have we learned? If a noun ends in ANCE, then the suffix to make the adjective is usually ANT, apart from romance and romantic. But who needs romance? Who needs romance? I don't need romance. I'm so lonely. If a noun ends in ENCE, then the suffix to make the adjective is usually ENT. It's usually always ENT, or always usually. Just mix the adverbs of time together. I love adverbs of time, and I love the present simple. And you probably don't know everything about the present simple. If you want to learn everything about the present simple for the B2 First Cambridge exam, click here. Goodbye. Next one. Okay, there are some rules here. If a noun ends in ET or ETE, then the adjective usually uses the suffix ic. Remember that if the noun ends in E, we normally remove the E and replace it with ic. So, for example, athlete becomes athletic and magnet becomes magnetic. If a noun ends in D, DE or DY, we usually use the suffix ic to make adjectives. I see. Ick. I'm such an ick. Wow. So tragedy becomes tragic, melody becomes melodic, and acid becomes acidic. Also, if a noun ends in ot, OT, then we usually add ick, IC. For example, idiot becomes idiotic, and patriot becomes patriotic. And yes, I'm sure if you want to find an exception, you will find an exception. There are exceptions to everything in the world. Apart from, if you don't subscribe to this channel, you will fail your exam. No exceptions. So please subscribe, please. I'm really desperate. I am. It's actually quite pathetic. One very annoying problem that you need to be aware of at the B2 first level is the difference between adjectives ending in ic and ickle. IC and ICAL. Because sometimes a noun will have two adjectives, one with ic and one with ickle, and it will change the meaning, and this is a problem for you. For example, we have historic and historical, and these have different meanings. For example, if something is historical, it means it happened in history, a historical event. It happened in the past. Every event is historical. Me recording this video is historical because now that you're watching it, it happened in the past. Great. Historic, on the other hand, means something very important in history. Wow. When I uploaded my first video to YouTube on May the 17th, 2020, that was a historic moment for the world. And generations will be looking back on that thinking, wow, what a historic moment for the world. Also, another pair of words that creates problems at the B2 level is economic and economical. Economic means related to money. For example, Smash English has economic problems. We have no money. What are we doing? I don't know. Economical means money saving. For example, an economical thing for me to do would be to sell all of my equipment, sell my computer, and close Smash English, because then maybe I would do some work. But I'm not going to do that. Because I love you, right? Because I love you. I want to help you pass your B2 first exam. I really do. So say thank you in the comments. Leave a comment just to say thanks. Come on, please. We can add AL to a noun, and this makes an adjective that means about that noun, regarding that noun, or of that noun. For example, a natural apple, an apple of nature, as opposed to the unnatural apples, whatever. Or a seasonal celebration, a celebration of the season. However, this can get confusing because we can also add AL to a verb to make a noun. Oh my god! So just because you see a word ending in al with the suffix al, it doesn't mean that that word is an adjective. It could also be a noun, and that's a terrible thing. Arrive becomes arrival. Betray becomes betrayal. Portray becomes portrayal. These are verbs becoming nouns, not nouns becoming adjectives. And how do you know the difference? Well, you're going to learn them all. Vocabulary, read a dictionary. That's fun. It's what I do in my spare time because I have no friends. I don't want any. I'm too good for friends. Probably that's what I tell myself. The meaning here is the same as the al suffix. We add ar to a noun to create an adjective. As with muscle, muscular, circle, circular, populous, popular, we don't say we say ular, U-L-A-R. Why? I don't actually know, but just remember it. You have to learn these things. I'm sorry. But I have some more bad news for you, because just because a word finishes in AR does not mean that that word is an adjective. It could be a noun of agency. Sometimes we use the suffix AR at the end of a verb to give a name to the person that does that verb. If someone burgles, they are a burglar. Someone that steals from houses is a terrible thing to do, so please don't do it. Or someone that lies. If you lie, you are a liar, and that's also a terrible thing to do. So please don't do it. However, if you don't like my videos, please do lie and hit the like button and leave a comment telling me that you love me. If you love my videos, please don't lie. Tell the truth and leave a comment. Thanks. We can add the suffix ive, ive, to a noun to make an adjective that means possessing that quality or tending to have that quality. For example, mass relates to size. Something that is massive has a lot of size. But we can also add it to verbs. Attract is a verb, and if you attract people, like me, then you are attractive, like me. What are you doing? This is going on the internet. It's just embarrassing. Create is a verb, and someone or something can be creative. But remember, create finishes with E. If a verb finishes in E, then we remove the E and we add IVE. We can't say creative. What's that? That's stupid. No, create, remove the E, ive. However, some nouns can also end in IVE. So just because a word finishes in IVE, ive, does not mean it is an adjective. And I'm really sorry. Why? Why do I always have to disappoint you? I'm a failure. For example, execute is a verb, but executive, well, that's a manager. To direct, that's a verb, but directive, well, that's an order given by an authority. And in this situation, I am your authority, and I am giving you a directive. Watch every single one of my videos, twice. If you do that, you'll definitely pass. And I have no dignity, so I'm prepared to beg. I'm gonna beg right now. And with that, we are finished. Now you know everything you need to know about suffixes to make adjectives for the B2 First Cambridge exam. If you liked the video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment down below. My name is Toby, and this was Smash English.